All right. Yes. Thank you. Thank you for your patience. Hi, Cindy. So I woke up this morning in a very familiar experience. You could label the experience as mm, mm, anxiety, agitation, depression, fear. There are many different labels that you could place on it. And I did my all of my little practices that I do to bring a sense of ease or compassion or kindness to myself. And something in the mind said, "What is happening?" And that curiosity moved me in the direction of remembering a teaching that comes into my awareness from time to time. And this is the yogic teaching of sukha and dukkha. We find these Sanskrit terms in Buddhism and Hinduism, the Bhagavad Gita, yoga. And I'll just briefly touch on these terms. Sukha, we could say, is this uh, translated as kind of like this good space inside, and dukkha is essentially translated to this bad space inside. Sukha is often related to pleasure or peacefulness, and dukkha is often related to suffering. And I remember many years ago in my training, I learned or became aware of this teaching that most human beings are always living in dukkha. And when I was speaking to sukha and pleasure, we could say that's the more superficial aspect of sukha. For me, sukha in its essence is the liberation of the senses. Rather than it being about the enjoyment and the pleasure of the senses, it's being liberated from all of the attachment to the sense experiences, the desires, the things that we look to feel a sense of happiness or contentment or fulfillment, whatever it might be. So this morning, I became aware, in this moment, I'm having the very common experience of dukkha, this experience of suffering. We could also think about this as this experience of contraction. In moments that I have experienced a taste of liberation, spiritual liberation, or beyond spiritual liberation, I've noticed a couple of things because I've tried to sometimes label what is happening in those moments, which you can't really do, but it maybe a little we can to experience it. And I noticed in those moments of liberation, there is a total absence of fear. It's just pure presence, total absence of fear. And we could also look at this as a total absence of contraction. No contraction, just pure space. And in that, there's also this, it's beyond the word that we know in our languages of trust. It's like a total giving of oneself and resting in the grace of life without any resistance. So this morning, I'm aware I'm experiencing dukkha. I'm experiencing this very, it's beyond the word common. very lived experience of suffering that most of us live in 24 hours a day. One way we can understand the rising of dukkha is through attachment and desire, meaning I feel a discomfort inside, I feel a longing inside, I feel an unhappiness inside, I feel unpleasant or uncomfortable inside. So my mind says, how can I make this pain go away? And it starts looking to things outside of me to make the pain go away. Oh, if I exercise, I'll feel better. Oh, if I meditate, I'll feel better. Oh, if I am in love, I'll feel better. If I have more money, I'll feel better. If I work on this creative project, I'll feel better. Now, many of the things I'm speaking to are beautiful expressions of life. The thing that keeps us in this state of suffering is our attachment to them and looking to them to change the state of the suffering. Oh, I'm finally in a relationship and I'm finally in love and I feel good for how long, right? How long? A week? A month? Maybe 3 months max until your triggers start really coming up and your mind gets involved and you start saying, "Oh, they're not who I thought they were. I'm not as in love as I thought I was." It's that attachment to things to make us feel good that keeps us caught in that cycle. And I'm not here to say that there's one path or that we should not enjoy the pleasures of life or anything like that. If anything, I kind of, in my background and my upbringing, I kind of come with this merging of kind of a more transcendent path and then a more tantric path where there's this how to transcend the senses and just go for the light, and then how to embody life so fully that we become awakened. So, my background is actually kind of both of these different ways of being. So I'm not saying that there's a way that any of us should be, or that there is only one path at all. We're just simply looking, exploring this awareness of, the longing to cover up the suffering with experiences in the world is what keeps me in the cycle of dukkha, of suffering. Let's just take a breath there for a moment. What are you becoming aware of inside as we speak to this? Hi Mishi. Hi Zis. Hi Jen. You don't have to share something in the chat if you don't wish. It's just good to take a pause sometimes. Some of you are very familiar with these teachings. For some, it's new. It's always good to take moments. Curiosity had a similar morning. Mhm. Guilt is arising as I'm being aware of my addictions and attachments. Guilt is just another addition in the layer of the loop. Yes, just another layer. So I remember years ago, maybe not even that long ago, some years, my dad shared with me both of my parents started meditating in their late teens and became really immersed in um, yogic teachings and principles and practices, and read the Bhagavad Gita who knows how many times. The Bhagavad Gita is an ancient text that in a way is like a roadmap for liberation. I have a copy here of one that I I read parts of from time to time. There are many different translations of it out there, and this one is by Eknath Iswaran. So, if you're ever curious about this sacred text, that is a roadmap to awakening. This is a wonderful, wonderful education, knowledge. Hmm. So my dad said to me, I think maybe I had some kind of a win. Maybe I don't know, I had some kind of success with a retreat or with some meditation I put out there, had thousands of listens. I don't know, something like that, right? Where I was like, oh, look at this thing I'm celebrating. And my dad said, that's wonderful. And he said, I don't remember the exact words, but the heart of the teaching that we find in the Bhagavad Gita and we find in different texts, the heart of the teaching is wonderful. Now, practice being, practice letting go of your attachment to negative feedback as much as you hold on to your positive feedback. Meaning, many of us have thoughts in our minds of like, okay, if something negative happens, I should do my best to just let it go. Or if something uncomfortable happens, I do my best to just, move on or learn from it and grow. But many of us are very attached to positive feedback. Many of us are very attached to critical feedback as well. So really the heart of the teaching is it's important to be unattached to both. If we wish to experience freedom, if we wish to experience liberation, we must practice being unattached to people's criticism of us and unattached to people's praise of us. And if you're reflecting on your life right now, you can probably see something similar as to what I see for myself, which is if somebody criticizes me, oh my gosh, I'm so triggered. What does it mean? Right? The reaction that can come up if somebody criticizes us, our attachment, right? That's our attachment showing up, the way we're reacting to someone's criticism. And the same thing. If someone really praises us and we just feel touched by their praise, we want to hold on to it. It's so wonderful. I'm so wonderful. I have to hold on to this praise. It's the attachment to both that keep us in the cycle of dukkha. They keep us in the cycle of the suffering. So one of the teachings for how to start to be liberated from this never-ending cycle of dukkha is one, to accept that the dukkha is here, that we live in a creation where the pain arises, the joy arises, the pain arises, the joy arises, the pain arises. What do most of us do when pain arises? Think about it. If you wake up and you feel depressed, or if you wake up in the morning and you feel really anxious, what do? Do you sit there and say, it's okay. Everything's just fine the way that it is? Or do you say, oh no, oh no, my anxiety is here. My depression is here. I better take some medicine. I better make sure that I do all these things to fix it so I don't have to feel this pain. Oh no, I'm so bad. I shouldn't be feeling this way. Oh, there's something wrong with me. Oh, I knew there was something wrong with me. I thought I was healed. I thought I was healed. Why am I still feeling this? Oh no. This is how we respond to the natural rising of pain. Can you feel that? There are natural cycles of life: pain, pleasure, pain, pleasure, pain, pleasure, but we hold on to them. I don't want this pleasure to end. I don't want this pleasure to end. I don't want this pleasure to end. Life is perfect when pleasure never ends. But that's not the nature of this reality. The pain will always come again, and so will the pleasure. It is our attachment and our thinking that we're supposed to always be happy, or the the suffering we create for ourselves trying to keep an experience one way. that contributes to the suffering. For example, let's say that you are in a relationship and there's much happiness. And remember, there's a difference between happiness and joy. Sai Ma speaks about it in Ma's book. Happiness is for a reason, it's temporary. Joy is our essence, it can never be shaken. So, what many of us do, we have an experience. Let's say we're in a relationship and there's this happiness, and you feel like, oh, I'm so happy. I'm happier than I've been in so long. I'm happier than I've ever been. I don't want this happiness to go away. So, what do? We hold on. We don't want the relationship to change. We don't want the person to leave us. We don't want things to be different. We want to hold on to that happiness. What do you think happens when you're holding on to something that you can't actually hold on to? Share in the chat. What happens when you hold on, when you try so hard, so much to hold on to happiness that will always change? What happens? What happens? It moves away, it changes, it becomes exhausting, it loses its joy. We close ourselves off from receiving and the flow of life like water passes through fingers. We're destined to be let down, resist, and you will get more resistance, disappointed. You miss the joy of the present, suffocation. Yes, yes. I love what Mark is sharing about this analogy here. If you're not familiar with it, hopefully you can see my hand. I know some of you are on the close-up view here, and it's that if you cup your hand like this kind of receptive posture with your hand, gesture with your hand. When you put water in your palm, you can hold it. It stays there, right? You can hold the water in your hand. But if you squeeze the water in your hand, it will just drain out between your fingers. So it is this, yes. Yeah, emotionally nauseous, fear of losing, absolutely. So we can see that in this futile attempt to hold on to happiness, not only do we experience many of those things that each of you just shared, but for many of us, we're also living in a mindset that says, if pain arises again, that means something is wrong. If pain comes up in this relationship, then that means something's wrong. Oh, that means I should leave, right? Or if pain comes up after you've experienced happiness, uh-oh, I've got to change something. This isn't right. Something's bad. The pain, the pleasure, the pain, the happiness, like this. So, what would life be like if you could practice stepping back and saying, in this moment, I'm experiencing pleasure and it is what it is. In this moment, I'm experiencing pain and it is what it is. Here's another moment of pleasure. I let it go. Here's a moment of pain. I let it go. See, this is always happening. And it's the stories that we assign to the experience that determine the path we're on in that moment. Can you see that? Can you see how the mind is always assigning stories? Oh, I must feel happy because of this, and I have to hold on to this thing. I'll give a more clear example. I must be feeling happy because I went to dance class, so I have to keep going to dance class all of the time. And if I don't go to dance class, then I'm bad. I'm not good. I feel guilty because in my mind, I might have even forgotten down the road. In my mind, I have attached dancing equals happiness. So I might even beat myself up if I don't go dancing rather than just accepting, oh, I'm not dancing today. There's like this judgment toward myself because there's this at this point maybe an unconscious attachment to the dancing making me happy. And the same thing happens the other way. Yes. Oh, uh, I feel pain today, and it must be because I don't know. We could say many things. It must be because, oh, what can I say? I don't know. Anyway, you get the idea here. I must be feeling this pain because of X. So I can never do that thing again. Or there's attachment that says if I do this thing, I will always experience pain. So can you see how your mind is assigning stories to the natural pain, pleasure, pain, happiness? Oh, what a great question, Cornelia. Why are we trying so hard to avoid suffering? Mm. Well, and I'm happy to hear anyone's thoughts on this because there are ancient teachings on this, there are experiences on this. You see, one teaching or understanding of this experience is that all is same. Pain and pleasure are the same. It is all the same. We have different experiences of it, contraction and expansion, but all is one. All is source. All is this one experience. So if we look at things through this perspective of non duality, one is not better than the other. Pain is not worse than pleasure, and pleasure or happiness is not worse than pain. However, in our experience, you could say that when we are in an expanded state, there is an experience of freedom. When we are in a contracted state, we are not experiencing liberation. And this is also something I think is really valuable to touch on, the difference between state and experience. An experience is something that comes and goes, a state is something that is always there. So I would say maybe in the relative, the reason we try to avoid suffering so much is because of that tightness, that contraction that we feel in suffering, as opposed to the liberation of expansion. But again, my limited understanding, because I have not attained full self realization, my limited understanding says that when we are self realized, however you wish to think of that, enlightened, free, liberated, when we are self realized, we are able to see the pleasure and the pain for the play that it is. And it no longer impacts us in the same way. It's kind of like the difference between watching a movie and experiencing something in our lives real time. When it's a movie, it's easier to be just aware. Now, most of us get caught up in movies because our brains watch the movie as if we're watching our own self. The brain relates to the character we feel most resonant with, yes. But it is more of watching the play of the Maya. So I'm going to come back and read some of your comments here. Yeah, Danny's sharing we try to avoid suffering because we're told that it's bad. Absolutely. Um, who says what's good or bad? On what base do we measure the good and the bad? That's a great question, Cornelia. What's your answer? Rika is sharing, well, I think there's a difference between pain and suffering. Suffering feels so horrible because it's not our natural state. Okay, so are you saying that pain is our natural state? Tatiana is sharing, we are not used to be accepting what is and being content just with the present moment. Self love and acceptance is a practice. Mhm. Yeah. Tatiana is saying pain is inevitable, suffering is a choice. Rika said, just as you said, pain is part of our experience. Yes, but this is an important distinction to make. Our experience is not who we are. Our experience is not who we are. The pain you experience is not who you are. The happiness, the pleasure you experience is not who you are. It is an experience. It comes and it goes. It is not who you are. So, suffering, pain, they are experiences. They are not your essence. They are not your presence. And they are not you. One distinction I make in the relative between pain and suffering is that pain is naturally arising in life, and suffering is when we're resisting the pain. But that's just one way to look at it. Many would say that we could call all of the pain we experience suffering. And in the context of dukkha, we would look at it that way. Nicole is sharing, when I sit through the pain, it lifts eventually. Yes. Yes, because it's not who you are. And many of you are familiar with these teachings, or we've been together before and you've heard me speak on them, or you've heard my talks on the app here on them, that the mind perpetuates pain. Let's say uncomfortable emotion arises, and I start to think about why I think I'm having that emotional experience. See, for example, this morning when I woke up and had this experience of dukkha inside, this pain that was arising inside, if I was not aware of these teachings, if I hadn't been practicing these teachings for some time, what would my mind have done? I would have started assigning meaning to the feelings. Oh, I must be feeling this way because of this unknown thing in my life. Oh, I must be feeling this way because I did something wrong. Oh, I must be feeling this way because I'm afraid of this. I must be feeling this way because I ate too much chocolate. Like my mind would have assigned all of these stories, and then I would have been caught in a loop because there's no escape from that. There's no freedom, there's no liberation from that. I just have to say, "Oh, the pain is because of this. The pain is because of this thing I'm afraid of." So what have I done to myself? When I say the pain I'm feeling is because of this thing that I'm afraid of, what do I do to myself? I give myself no option to feel anything else other than the pain until that fear is gone. And that's what many of us do in our lives. We hold on to the idea of what we're afraid of so consistently that we don't give ourselves permission to experience pleasure, peace, joy, freedom, on and on. And I could go on and on there, but I just wanted to kind of briefly touch on how the untrained mind, and even the very trained mind, the unliberated mind, and the mind is not bad. The mind is like a garden. Whatever seeds we plant in the garden blossom, it's neutral. But the unliberated mind will continue to assign meaning And the more that we believe the meaning or believe the stories we tell ourselves about the pain arising, the more we stay caught in the loop. Now, of course, there's value in understanding the stories sometimes. There's value in having self reflection and introspection. There's value in this relative world, in this Maya, of saying, okay, maybe why am I feeling this way? Oh, because I've been spending time with this person who I really don't resonate with. This is self awareness. And through self awareness, we can make new decisions, we can take new actions. So there can be great value. However, if you find that you are totally trapped in a cycle of pain, totally trapped in a cycle of contraction, then you might say to yourself, what story am I telling myself that is keeping me caught here? If there isn't some sense of self awareness that allows you to move toward liberation in some way, what story am I telling myself that is keeping me caught here? Gentle compassion. Okay, coming back to your comments. Gary is sharing, I think the problem is that, oops, that when we are suffering, we are not in the present moment. So we spiral farther into the negative and continually make ourselves worse. Yeah, we're not present. We're in the mind's storytelling. Yes. And what I've found is that sometimes I'm not even aware of the story that the mind is living inside of. Sometimes it's in the subconscious, or sometimes it is just so quiet. I'm not even aware that it's there. Like, for example, sometimes I've noticed, I remember I started doing this, I don't know how many years ago, 8 years ago or something. I started to really become aware of, okay, there would be a day I wouldn't be feeling great. I could label it however, depressed, whatever. We kind of went through that already. I label it as something, and then I say, but wait a second. What's really going on that's perpetuating me not feeling good today? And then I would find that deep down in the crevices of my mind, covered up, trying to hide, there was a thought on repeat that said, I don't feel good. I don't feel good. I don't feel good. I don't feel good. And that repeating thought was creating my experience. Or was a thought on repeat that I wasn't even aware of that was saying, I'm so afraid of this. I'm so afraid of this. I'm so afraid of this. And because I wasn't aware of it, it was just continuing to create my experience. So this is another way self-reflection in the mind can be really helpful. And yes, of course, if there's part of my psyche that is not in the here and now, which is the way most of us live all of the time, then we experience that dukkha. Yes. And that is why some of us who have had like real present moment experiences, we're always in the present moment, just the mind is distracted. But when we've dropped into a state of experiencing the presence, many of us know that taste of liberation just from presence because we are liberated. You are already an awakened being. It is the layers of this unconsciousness, the identification with the Maya, with the suffering, with the experiences. I am my experiences. You are not your experiences. It's this identification, among other things, that keeps us in this illusion of thinking that we are not already an awakened being. We've forgotten. It's okay. That's why we're here. We're here to forget and remember and forget and remember and explore. Frank is sharing, I have diagnosed OCD. The only way to cure it is to sit through the pain and suffering until the pain and suffering becomes smaller and smaller until it disappears. Yes, Frank. And you're not alone in that. I would say that is true for every human being. Unless people have some spontaneous awakening, the path of liberation is being able to sit with ourselves fully just as we are, without getting caught in the story that we have to change ourselves, fix ourselves, make the pain go away, make the pain stop, make it all stop, make it stop, make it stop, make it stop. It's when we sit with it fully that there's something that happens. It's like the veil of illusion is pierced. Or on a more physical level, the level of matter, that the the energy that is stagnant in our systems is allowed to be liberated when we're able to be present with the pain fully. Rika's asking, how can we practice to let go of the mind doing that? I've been stuck in those loops, observing them, but not feeling like I can get the mind to stop or focus on something else. Should we just observe it and smile at it and not buy into it, not buying into it? There's so many techniques for this. And sometimes there are other layers to work with. There's so many teachings and they all address different layers of our being, yes? For example, some would say for some of us, we really need to address the trauma in the body to be able to liberate the mind. Some would say you don't need to address any trauma in the body or any emotions, and you can experience liberation if you just use these certain tools. So there are many ways we can look at it, and I think it's all for our own self discovery and exploration. I have a talk here on the app called I have actually have 2 talks on the app that I would invite you to listen to, and anyone else who's kind of relating to this, share of Rika's. The 2 talks I have here on the app, one is called, something like "How to Stop Mental Looping." So that would be a good one to listen to, and another one would be, "Your Powerful Mind." And I would say listen to those just for a little, bit of inspiration and perspective. And one of the most important things that we can give ourselves to work with mental looping, agitation, all of the things that we've been speaking to in the realm of dukkha is to take time for stillness every single day. Not taking a nap, not, like, I don't know, watching TV or something or reading a book, but close your eyes, be still. And if you need support, um, because your mind is very active, choose a meditation practice that gives you a focal point, but doesn't keep you fully engaged. We want to rest our presence, our minds. Yes, so maybe there's a mantra meditation that works well for you, where you're just kind of like repeating one mantra over and over. Transcendental meditation is fantastic. Japa is fantastic. There's so many different types of mantra meditation we can use. Um, or maybe like a mindfulness meditation where you're not focusing on many things, but just maybe you're focusing on the breath and just let it be simple, just simple. But give yourself time to be still every day while you're awake. Yes, this is very important for each of us, even those of us who have more settled minds, stilled minds. Um, I'll just share very briefly that one thing I've learned more and more through my own personal practice and the awakening process, and what I've also even learned from awakened beings, is that we keep doing our sadhana. We keep doing our daily spiritual practice. I know some of us have the experience of like some liberated experience. Maybe you went on a plant medicine journey, or you had this amazing experience with your spiritual teacher, or at church or temple, and you just felt totally new inside or totally liberated. And you had this sense of like, yes, I really feel like a shift has taken place. Maybe it happened in a yoga asana class, who knows? But you felt some sense of like, yes, I finally feel different, right? And I know so many of you can relate to what I'm saying. I finally feel different. Things are going to be different. I feel like I'm going to be more happy, more peaceful, more awakened, more inspired. And then all of a sudden the depression comes back, the anxiety comes back, and you say, oh no, no, how did this happen? How did this happen? It must not have been a real experience. It was very much a real experience for you, but we need to maintain our spiritual practices. And again, of course, the distinction is here that even inside of doing our spiritual practices, sukha and dukkha are here, this natural arising of the suffering in the human experience. So we do not rely on our spiritual practices thinking that they're going to eliminate suffering altogether. Now, they may very well do that for us when we move into a liberated state. I can't say for sure, I'm not there yet. But what our sadhana does is it expands and uplifts our vibrational experience of life so that in the natural experience of the pain and the pleasure, the pain and the happiness that comes and goes, we become more settled. We become more balanced. We are less uh, we are less controlled by the old emotional reactions and the old trauma that we used to act from. Daily spiritual practice, sadhana, helps us to expand our state so that when life happens, as it does, this coming and this going, we have greater equilibrium and even greater freedom in the face of the challenges that arise. Gary is sharing, I listen to your looping talk all the time. Oh, wonderful. I'm so glad. I'm so glad it's helpful. Yeah, Rika, I'm glad. Yeah, the self-soothing meditation is so important. I created that meditation because there was a day where I was just in so much suffering. I was in so much pain. I had no idea what to do with it. So I just kind of went on this little journey with myself rather than judging myself or trying to get away from it or trying to check out or meditate or dance the pain away, whatever I might have tried to do. I recognized that I really just needed to sit with it and give myself room, give these parts of me room to say, what am I feeling? Right? I know some of us, and you might have even kind of taken this from the talk today. You might be like, oh, right. Well, if I'm in my spiritual path, then that means that I have to be unattached to everything and I can't feel emotion. And if emotion comes up, I just have to be unattached to it. No, in this human experience, we feel things so deeply. There's so much happening in this magnificent inner world of ours. And in the relative, in these bodies, I feel it's very important to allow the emotion to move, energy and motion. Emotion is energy in motion. So we need to develop a relationship to allow the energy to move. And that means feeling the emotion. So if you haven't listened to the self soothing practice and you're looking for some support on how to have a healthier relationship with your emotions or a healthier relationship with pain as it arises, or maybe just to meet parts of yourself with greater understanding and compassion, this is a great meditation for that, the self soothing meditation. Okay, Gary shared, um, true presence feels so lovely. Yes. Rob is saying, some people might say that pain can be a good thing, but can suffering ever be a good thing? This is your dream, yes? How do you choose to live your dream? There's a very powerful teaching that says that, and even in the Bhagavad Gita, which I've spoken about a few times today, that says that when the dukkha is there, when the pain, the suffering is there, that when we are in a certain state of mind, we can say, why am I suffering? And it's a different kind of a why than the one that creates looping stories. It's like the why that I had this morning. Rather than getting caught in a bunch of stories that pulled me down into the experience of pain, the mind actually took me on a journey to experience greater liberation. So it is this teaching that says that if we are asking, why is this suffering here? It can actually propel us in the direction of our awakening. Many would say that suffering is the catalyst to awakening. I think we spoke about this last week, yes? Or the week before, maybe. For many of us, if we didn't suffer, there would be no desire to awaken and become self realized. There would be no desire to remember who we truly are. We would be pleasantly on autopilot in the dream. Oh, look, I have my job. And many of us live this way, and that's okay. This realm is for experience. It's not like, oh, if you're not on a spiritual path, you're a lower person. We're all one. This is a playground. This is a play. Yes. So if we did not have that suffering propelling us into the desire to wake up out of the pain, oh, I love my job. I love my dog. Yes, everything's okay. I don't really feel totally fulfilled in my life, but it's okay. I'm here living my little life and it's okay. And now I'm going to die and do the same thing over and over and over again. The suffering. I can't tell you how many times. Actually, I would say maybe 100% of the time when people come to me for one on one sessions, it's because they're at that point. I don't want to suffer like this anymore. I don't want to suffer. And it's the first time for many that they've ever said yes to themselves in such a profound way. Maybe they've just been having drinks with friends to navigate that suffering inside. And then they're finally like, I just can't do this anymore. And so they call me, they email me, right? It's like this for many of us. The suffering becomes so uncomfortable that we can't just cover it up with our pleasures, our temporary pleasures, and our autopilot and our checking out. We just can't do it anymore. It becomes a choice no longer. The suffering is too much, and we have to do something about it. So we find a meditation path. We find a spiritual teacher. We find a coach. We find a meditation retreat. How many of you are here today, whether it's here in this session or here on Insight Timer, because there was a point in your life where you felt so much pain that you were longing and searching for something more? Probably all of us. Some of you are maybe here today like, oh, I was just curious. I look forward to seeing what comes next. This powerful awakening. So this is a topic we could just go on and on about forever. We'll spend a few more minutes here and then we'll come to a completion. Tatiana is asking, can suffering be a teacher? Absolutely. Absolutely. Gary's asking, do you think that trust and self-confidence is the key to relief? Mm. I'm trying to remember these words. One of the powerful things that I have learned about having a guru is that the guru is just a reflection of me. The guru is no better than me. The guru is not more enlightened than me, maybe more aware of enlightened state, but we are one. And the guru is the reflection of my own beloved higher self. And Saima said, when you doubt me, it doesn't bother me. Saima is my beloved teacher of over 2 decades, for anyone who's unaware. When you doubt me, it's not about me. It's you doubting yourself. When you don't trust me, it's not about me. It's about you not trusting yourself. So I would say, what is trust, Gary? Is trust a sense of feeling reliant on someone else's behavior to feel safe or secure? Is trust believing that you can do something and then letting yourself down? What is trust? What does it mean to really trust? We could have a whole satsang on this sometime. For me, real trust is liberation, like I shared earlier. For me, a real embodiment of trust is total liberation. I have surrendered. and there's nothing else to do at that point. So I'd say if you can really experience what I would call real trust, you will be liberated. It's beyond relief at that point. And self-confidence for many of us is really like a superficial layer of self-worth and self-love. And that is why I created the self-love course. Because in my personal experience in the journey of navigating the humanness, self-love has brought me more and more into an experience and at times a state of inner peace, contentment, fullness of heart. So I would say self-love. And self-love can look many ways. In the course that I have here on the app, we practice self-love in very simple ways that we can apply to our daily lives. It's not always some profound gesture. It's little steps, little actions, little thoughts, little behaviors each and every day that cultivate this self-love. And real self-love does create greater trust. Yeah, I hear you saying sometimes I'm really not sure what trust is. What a great thing to explore. What is trust to me? Okay. Linda's sharing some of the best growth has come from suffering times. I actually look forward to the growth, freedom at this stage in my life. Beautiful, my love. Beautiful. Yeah, it's really true. Because for many of us, when we allow ourselves to fully experience the pain, we know that there's freedom on the other side of that. It can help us become more aware. And through that awareness, we can become more self-loving, more empowered, more embodied. Many of you, we've been together for some years now. For some of us, we're here together for the first time today. And so some of you have heard me share on how my journey has been so full of suffering again and again and again and again. And not just, like, oh, I feel a little depressed today or I feel a little afraid today. Like, you know, the big blows of suffering that we experience as human beings. And I think that suffering has definitely brought me more fully into the state that I am in. Absolutely. This is sharing the Sima quote reminds me of I am not what you think. Uh-huh. I am not what you think. You are what you think I am. Yeah. I am not what you think I am. You are what I think I am. Yeah. Love that. I love that. And if you've never heard that quote before, friends, I invite you to sit with it and just be with it. I am not what you think I am. You are what you think I am. Meaning when you sit there and you judge someone and you say, oh, that person is such a da 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 da. What are you? What energy are you in to have thoughts like that? What behaviors are you in to have thoughts like that? What unconscious ways of being are you in to behave that way? Everything is a mirror. Oh, I'm so grateful for our time together. Thank you. Thank you for being with me, letting me be with you in this. Thanks for all of us being together. It's such, I feel such an important journey of awareness in our liberation. Sukha and dukkha. The pain comes, the happiness comes, it all comes and goes. How do we practice being non attached? How do we practice saying, here's this pain, it's so uncomfortable. How can I be kind to myself? Here's this happiness, it won't last forever. How can I take advantage of it and enjoy it fully? I had a little taste of an experience recently that I just like to kind of leave us with today because we hear quotes on this all of the time or teachings on this all of the time. Um, and it can't be repeated enough. So I found out that I might be taking a position, part of something that will require me to move from Hawaii. And I found this out when I was traveling on the mainland a few weeks ago, a month ago. And my time in Hawaii has been, Hawaii is here and the sacredness of this land, the beauty, the majesty of this exquisite place on the planet, and the people who've cultivated this land for so long. Uh, it is a very special place. And wherever you go, there you are. So I had a lot of challenges in the couple of years that I've lived here, just navigating things, navigating my own experience of dukkha, helping me liberate myself into greater peace. And that has nothing to do with Hawaii in a sense, meaning maybe my astrocartography does, but that's a whole other topic. So it's not about where you are, where I am. It's about the internal world. So that being said, I wasn't fully embodying the gratitude and the joy and the blessing of living here. And I can tell you that after I learned that I might be leaving sooner than later, I came back and I was more grateful than I've ever been and just taking advantage every day to live in a renewed state of gratitude and to uh, be in this sacred, beautiful place. I have gone on more hikes in the last 2 weeks than I have in the entire time that I've lived here. I mean, I am just like soaking everything up here, my community, nature, life, period. And this is a greater metaphor for our entire lives. We do not know what is going to happen. We do not know what changes will happen. We do not know when we will drop the body. We do not know any of it. We do not know when another wave of sukha or dukkha or experience is going to arise. We don't know. And so many of us right now in this very moment are living on autopilot with our minds mentally looping how bad our lives are, and we're caught in pain. And that's okay. That's okay. That's part of the experience at times. I would just like to be this outside voice or maybe this inner voice saying, this life is a precious gift and we don't know how long it lasts. What can you be grateful for today? What can you enjoy today? What gratitude can you express into the world today, to the people in your life? What can you do today to be an expression of this life is a gift, even if it's painful right now? I'd rather have a moment of pain than have it just all be over that fast. And I know some of us, it's a difficult thing to even access that. So just be kind. Be kind with yourself. You can even say to yourself, "Oh, here I am. I'm in a period of suffering right now." Okay, be with yourself in that. Hold your heart. Listen to soothing music. If you can, spend a little bit of time in nature and just let yourself be where you are. No more judging yourself for not being happy. In the journey of self-awareness, we learn things that help us to become more liberated. And in the journey of the pain and maybe not feeling liberated, we must be compassionate with ourselves. Mm. Thank you, everyone. Join us in the self love chorus. join us in our group here on the app, Love Heals All. Listen to the different talks I mentioned if you wish to feed your mind. Be kind with yourself. Practice. The next time someone gives you praise, practice saying, "That's lovely," and then just let it go. The next time someone criticizes you, say, "Ah, this is an experience," and let it go. And maybe there's some room to say, "Okay, how can I evolve? How can I refine myself?" And then just let it go. You don't need to keep beating yourself. This time is over. It's time for something new, for the purity of your heart to awaken. Thank you for you. Thank you so much for your donations. I'm so grateful for your support for me and my life. And part of the donation goes to Insight Timer. And I'm so grateful you're supporting Insight Timer because it helps to keep us here together. I look forward to being together for our next session, which oh, 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 I think I need to add our sessions to the calendar. Let's see what we have here, though. My beautiful parents are coming to visit. So let's see what I have on the schedule. hmm Oh, yeah. I need to update the schedule. So we'll be meeting for Vinyasa Asana on Friday. And oh, that's all I have on the schedule right now, our Friday sessions. So if you'd like to join for more sessions, check out the app tomorrow when the new schedule will be posted. I'll add a few more asana sessions so we can be physical and breathe together. And I'll add some more satsangs. Because next Wednesday is my parents' first day here. We won't have our satsang next week, but stay tuned. You can find my schedule on my profile page. You can hit the little bell icon for notifications to be informed of when I'm posting new events and when they're happening. So all of that will be up soon on the schedule. Thank you. Enjoy. And a couple references. Remember the Bhagavad Gita, if you'd like to read this book, this guide to self realization, and also Saima's book that I also read out of often, another guide to the heart and self realization. Okay. See you soon. Come join our group. Come say hi. Love Heals All is the name of the group. I'll see you soon. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Mhm. Love you.